Hey guys, I don't do this often in terms of promoting my own work, but I feel like this is an important one. As you know, I've been doing daily streams to help people during lockdown and escape. One adage of that is that I've been illustrating daily, and what I've done is I've turned that sketchbook into a colouring book, which is now available on my store, which is a good way to kind of look after your own mental health and give yourself an escape. But the important part of that is that all profit from that colouring book is going to charities. I'm sending money to Mind, Age UK, Trussell Trust, and Abortion Support Network. I'm not making any money off it. I have 30 or so copies, and I'm trying to sell all the copies because I want to be able to make quite a big donation. So if you are interested in that, please go to my store and check that out and share it with people you think would be interested. Thanks for listening, and here comes the show. Bye. Let's crack open this can of worms, shall we? So kids, how are you today? It is a very, very warm day today. I believe that it is one of those ones where it is meant to be like the hottest day of the year, or meant to be the hottest day of the year so far, or going to be the hottest. I don't know. This week's getting ridiculous with heat. I think it's meant to hit like 30 degrees at some point, which seems insane. I don't really know what to do with that information. All I really know is that I'm warm and I got a fan below my desk, slowly cooling my legs off. But we're about to jump in. We're about to jump into this. You were prepared for the biggest roller coaster ride of conflict, of conversation, and everything like that? No, you're not. You're not ready for it. I'm not ready for it. Who knows? But it's been on my mind. It's been something which I wanted to discuss. Also something which people have brought to me quite a bit. So I thought, hey, you know what? Let's jump in. Let's settle in for a little half hour of discussion around this topic. So recently, and I say recently, it was probably like last week or the week before, there was a survey published in the Sunday Times, which was covering the idea of essential workers and what was deemed essential. And they interviewed 1,000 people and asked them the most essential roles, and the least essential role which came out of that was artists, which of course then triggered backlash. I myself did a piece about it. I did a nice little logo piece, which was a play on the "This Is Not a Pipe" picture by René Magritte. And it slapped down there and slapped down there. Now, the interesting thing about this, and I don't know, maybe the unexpected opinion of this is, and the title of this is obviously clickbait to get you keep clicking in here, but is the truth, is that art is not essential. Let's shrink that in for a second. I say that as someone who considers himself part of art communities. Art is not essential. Artists are not essential. That's my view. That's something which I completely agree with. So you're obviously thinking, what are you saying, Graham? So I shouldn't buy your work and you shouldn't do these things? Well, that's your prerogative. That's what you do. But let's break it down. Okay, so when people think essential, when you take the word essential to the world of the world, people think of basic survival. The core and tenements of surviving as a human or a species, which is food, lodging, and health. Art doesn't come into those three things: food, lodging, and health. That's survival, and this is the conflict I have in my brain, which I fight with a lot, and a lot of my work actually deals with, is looking at this idea of what art is and how art should be kind of pushed into the world, and the idea of bad art versus good art and fine art, and a lot of this hangs on the premonition of the description or definition. That's the word I'm looking for. Premonition. What is this, charmed? The definition of how you define artwork. I know I got a little posh at the end of that sentence, and it kind of plays into that whole idea. But when I think of essential, and I think of art, and I think of the world, I think of the core tenements of what I could live without and still exist. Because essential isn't living; essential is existing. You don't consider, when you think of food, if someone's to bring you food, you don't think of a I don't know, like a fancy meal. I don't know why when I think fancy, I automatically think Duck L'Orange. I feel like that's heavily media based. Something is heavily encroached on my brain and said Duck L'Orange is the fanciest meal you've ever going to have, and it's actually stupidly easy to make. You don't think of Duck L'Orange. You think of basics. You think of beans and rice. Those are the things which are essential. They're grains. They're easy to make. They're cheap. So you think essential. You don't think of art. And it surprised me how many artists were shocked or triggered by this report that the world out there saw them as non-essential. This isn't news. Am I insane? Like, I the world's out there. You're shocked that the world sees you as non-essential. You're offended that the world sees you as non-essential. Really? Because I've had no delusions about how the world sees artwork ever. I still run under the guise and the premise which I've run under since I was very young, which is the only way to make money as an artist is to die, because then you can no longer make that artwork. You only make money as an artist after you are dead. That's the basic tenement of creating art. Now, don't get me wrong. A few of you are already spitting feathers at me. But yeah, I just don't see how people were shocked by this. This is art is not essential in the hunter-gatherer sense of the word. In terms of the society we live in, it's not essential for survival. No, yeah, as I say, don't get me wrong. I understand that art completely has its place. And this is where you get into the nitty-gritty of in-betweens of art. So, art is not essential in the hunter-gatherer sense of things. Therefore, artists are not essential. I'm very aware that my life is frivolous, essentially. The artist community is frivolous, and it's actually something which I think about a lot in terms of guilt of being an artist. I fairly logical, fairly high aptitude for doing things, so I could have done something much more useful in my life. I could have gone and been a doctor. I've done a whole podcast of this. I could have been a lawyer. I could have easily gone and, helped the world and the law. But no, I sat down and decided, I'm going to draw potatoes for a living. That is essentially a privilege I have of being able to say, oh, actually, no, I'm able to do this because the world doesn't require my services in the other realms of essential job listings. And yet we give essential jobs to the lower income workers. I mean, this was the whole point of the survey. The whole point of the survey was to highlight the jobs we consider essential and the underpaid that they have, essentially. But yeah, as I say, don't get me wrong. So my view of art not being essential is heavily ingrained in what we consider art to be and what we consider essential to human survival. Now, that's another point. This is human survival, This isn't animal survival. And that's another point. You could easily say, how can you see art as essential when we're the only species that does it? If anything, art is a symptom of being human. It's a side effect of our development of brains. You don't see dogs trying to paint portraits of one another. You don't see why can't I think of animals? You don't see sloths, chilling out in the forest making sculptures and discovering what abstract means. No, you don't see that because it is a symptom of the way our brains work. And if anything, it is a side effect and a coping mechanism for the progression which we've made with logical thought and abstract thought and being able to conceptualize. So within society, art becomes slightly more essential. To me, art is only essential if you consider it from a societal standpoint. This was the main argument most people make of art being essential within a lockdown, and the main reason most people got a lot really upset about is that people consider artists non-essential. Yet we go into lockdown, which is an unnatural environment, and instantly people turn to artists for comfort. They turn to entertainment. They turn to media. And they turn to everything which is related to that, which is connection to mental health. And yes, that's where it's essential. But then that's an unnatural environment, isn't it? lockdown society, in the hunter-gatherer sense of the word, it's unnatural. It's not something which should be. If anything, we should be living, on the plains somewhere, in yurts, hunting down food, foraging, etc., etc. But we're past that. We've developed as a society. But you're never going to get past that essential part. You're never going to get past that this is essential to keeping us alive part. So the shock is kind of, I don't know, naive maybe? Also, who wants essential art? That's another part, right? Okay, so I'm quite proud to be non-essential. I'm proud to be a frivolity in society. If anything, it drives me. This is why I made the work which I did. This is why I published the piece. Because, I'm not essential. I know I'm not essential. I'm a thorn in the side. That's what I want to be. I want to be, that's what art should be. Art should be something which comes along and disrupts. It should be something which comes along and says, "Oh, hey, you've done this. This is great, but here's the inequality. Here's the problems. Here's the things which you need to survive, because the structures you've created are incorrect. Also, here's this and that. It's the mirror. It's highlighting the indifference, and that's what drives me to create art. I've said it 1,000 times before. Struggle creates great art. Struggle and change mean art gets created, and it's used to highlight to the world how they're failing or succeeding. Why would you want essential art? Why would you ever want to be considered essential as an artist? Can you imagine essential art? Essential art to me just encourages or generates in my mind these images of, like when you go to like a B&B or like a travel lodge or some sort of chain hotel, and you go in and they've got these generic abstract pieces on the wall, or there'll be a picture of like a river or some sort of vista, some sort of field, a painting of the local landmarks. They're just generic. It's that kind of blue duck syndrome, where it's inoffensive, slapped onto a canvas, paraded around. If you get the reference to blue duck, congratulations. And it's that kind of, it's corporate art. It's we wanted something to pretty it up. We wanted to appear slightly edgy, but we're not actually edgy. It's murals. It's historical murals. There's one in Lincoln right now, and I absolutely hate it. I don't know who the artist is. There's a couple of murals in Lincoln, and I absolutely hate them. I don't know who the artists are, but they were commissioned murals, and they don't say anything. They're not. They're just there. So okay, cool. I don't care about this. Doesn't actually do anything. The whole idea of large art pieces should be to generate a message and help society consider the things around them, but it doesn't. It's just like, oh, here's Lincoln. Oh, great. That's not art. It's technically okay. I mean, these murals aren't technically okay, but it's there. Why would you want to be essential? Why would any artist in their right mind want to be considered essential unless you're only in the art world to make money? This is the other thing which I kind of grasped onto, was that this whole idea of art being considered essential is kind of linked to the monetary value of it. Is that people want to be considered essential because then they'd never have to be worried about getting paid for being an artist. And obviously being paid for being an artist is a struggle, and I recognize this conflict. I recognize this conflict of people wanting to be able to do and create the work which makes them happy and get paid for it, and they can consider that as part of an essential part of society. And that's a fine goal to have. But at the same time, you have to consider that if that is your goal, the end point is that you wouldn't be needed. I see a lot of an argument I've seen. I can't remember who I was reading, but they were saying how art is important for mental health. Yes, it is. Art is important for expressing yourself. Yes, it is. art is one of these things which can help society and become art therapy and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yes, I completely agree with those sentiments. But that is only needed if society doesn't have a structure to begin with which supports those things. If you encourage community and mental health conversation and discussion of personal values and etc., 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 and people are better paid, then it becomes less needed, less essential to support them with artwork, to support them with creativity. So your endpoint is removing yourself from being essential. I realize there's a lot of conflict in this. All I'm saying is that art shouldn't be essential. It shouldn't be something which is categorized as essential. Not for the baseline of what essential is. Art should be something which is a side effect. It should be something which is pushed into the world. It's not something which can be constructed or formulated. If art is considered essential, it loses a lot of its meaning. Because then you have people who would be employed by governmental employees to make art, and that wouldn't be art because you'd be forcing it. It's like, I think maybe one of the best examples is war art. Okay, so back when I was in senior school, young age, we learned about World War II because you do, and of course you learn about war artists, and these were artists who were employed by the army, by the government, to go to locations and create artwork based on what they were seeing, and create artwork which was propaganda. That was considered essential art. A lot of those artists hated doing it. They were chosen because of the technical talent. They were chosen because they were artists. And they had a level of, integrity, value within society because they were seen as artists. And then they went out and they made these works and they got told that they couldn't make certain works and other works got kind of shut down and locked down. That's what they were doing. That was essential art. That's not what art should be. The work which they made post-war was the hugely important work. That's the work we look at. That's the work we go, yes, that was the problem and this is what's going on. That's the work they should have been making, but nobody's going to class that as essential because that breaks down the whole bigger deal of the plan, That interferes with the social essential construct of survival which was occurring over there. This is my view. I realise that my view of art is perhaps idealistic. I don't think art as a view should be seen as essential. Mental health support should be seen as essential. And art can be a symptom of that. I think expression and media and things like that should be seen as essential. But again, art is a symptom of that. You think consider regularly scheduled programming as it is on TV. I don't have a TV. Generic TV I only use like Netflix and Prime. But you think of like generic TV shows. Think of the BBC. It's a publicly funded institution. How often do you watch a BBC program? Is it considered essential? A lot of people see the BBC considered essential. The TV license considers the BBC as essential service because in order to watch it, you have to pay a TV license in the UK, which is £125 a year. So you pay an overall fee in order to access those channels. That's a law. That's not like a subscription service where you pick and choose. No, that is a law. If you have a TV which has an aerial port, therefore you can access the BBC, you have to pay a TV license. And again, that's considered essential service. Yeah, very rarely I watch a show on the BBC. I can't. I don't have a TV license. But I wouldn't consider it's essential because that's essential programming. That's programming which is made for the sake of having programming. It's a conflict between what art should be and what society deems valuable, Yes. But then I think, you can think of it as another way around. I probably said like 1,000 times in this podcast. You can think of it as another way around of, okay, so we've gone into lockdown. Therefore, entertainment media has become essential to keep us entertained, to keep us sane. So therefore, we could consider it essential. Fantastic. Lockdown is unnatural as a set up. It is required for our survival. Media has kept us entertained. In that sense, it has kept us slightly anesthetized. There's a huge following that says television and entertainment and media anesthetizes your mind within a world. So therefore, are you saying that art is just an anesthetist for conflict? And that should be a central part of society, that it helps us deal with being in a society? Then surely art shouldn't be essential. Protest and activism and everything surrounding that should be part of society. Surely that should be the essential part. Unions and conflict and all those things, shouldn't they be the part of society which really are considered essential, not art? I realise I'm probably going around in circles here. I realise that, it's a complex subject. And even now, I'm looking at discussing with other artists how to respond to this kind of theory, and how we kind of look at that. I've said time before, art is one of those things which it's very subjective. It's always going to be subjective because it's an abstract concept, which is why I can talk for half an hour about it and probably say nothing. I've probably not changed your view on it. In a way, I guess what I'm trying to do is maybe alleviate some of that strain who felt really damaged by this survey. The world doesn't see you as essential as an artist. That's probably a good thing. Why would you want to be essential? That's why I made that piece. I am not essential. We are not essential. We're a symptom. We're a product. We are a reflection of what is happening around us. And a lot of people who generate art and generate creative concept, we're just a habit, a compulsion. I don't want to be essential. I have to make work I don't believe in. Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you don't. All I'm saying is I have no intention of being essential. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Thank you for listening. I realize I've talked around in circles. What I think this report did highlight is that the roles we do consider essential need paying more. And that's what I took away from it. Stay non-essential, and I'll talk to you guys later.